Peace. What's up, everybody? And welcome to another live edition of Ron's Library and Ideas. Now, I hope y'all can hear me this time. Let's see. Let me go back to my channel. And I'm testing out some new equipment just so this can look better.
Living with opioid addiction can be a struggle.
All right, so I got a commercial coming on.
For adults with moderate to severe opioid addiction who have.
Hello? I can't tell if you can hear me or not. All right. All right, sound is working now. Excellent. Usually I like to play some music as we're waiting for people to come in the room. Let's see if I can get that popping. Have y'all seen Sinners yet? What I find fascinating about Sinners is really just the attitudes of the people critiquing the movie who are upset by its success, and really how that ties into how America views Black people. All right, let's see. File. Open recent. Damn. See what I have on here. Good. Actually, no, I don't even have to go to GarageBand. Now, this may seem a little all over the place. I'm trying something new. Let's see. Save. All right. Let's try it in Apple Music. I got a bunch of music uploaded on my Apple Music account, but I don't exactly know where it all is. Let's see, Bluetooth. All right. Well, that's not what I want. What is this? This is a JBL. This is a Flip 5, but the sound isn't coming out of the speaker how I want it to. All right, so I can get sound to come out of my Mac speakers, but I'm still having difficulty getting the sound to come out of the JBL Flip 5 speaker that I have. So growing pains for a growing channel is to be expected. But for the playback, for those of you who are going to tune into this later, and what's interesting is I know that when I speak online, that I'm speaking to the future as well, because there's going to be somebody who's watching this from a time in the distant future, maybe. And it's interesting to think about that this could really be something that my children come back and watch and they're like, oh dang, this is what dad was like at this age before we came into the picture. So something that we can learn from the movie Sinners and from how Shador Sanders is being treated right now and Deion Sanders is being treated is just the power of image. Sinners is a powerful movie because it's made by one of us. It's made by a black person who has lived our story, and he can bring out nuances in his movie that other people aren't going to be able to capture. So in Sinners, we know the gist of the movie. We know the images are powerful. Everybody in the movie looks great. The story is pretty deep. And, art is working when it causes a whole lot of people to have different opinions about it. They pull out different nuances. Different symbols are going to stand out to different people. Now, Sinners is dangerous in the sense that it's a black person depicting our images. And that is a tool that Hollywood doesn't want to give over to our hands too often because we portray ourselves in a powerful manner. You had these two brothers who were the masters of their fate, the captains of their soul. They had a vision. They came back to their hometown. They wanted to bring something to the people around them. That juke joint they opened up was supposed to serve as like a refuge for them to get out all of those emotions. Sharecropping, living in the South in that time, being black in America, that's a trial. And we have learned to heal ourselves through our music. There's a scene in the movie where what they call him, Delta Slim, the harmonica player, is telling how a friend of his got lynched for absolutely no reason. And the pain of that, he could still feel it like he's right there. But that pain came out in the song. So that was showing you how we use blues music or our music in general to heal ourselves. We were able to get those emotions out. So that juke joint was going to allow us to listen to that music, get those emotions out, and energize ourselves so we can continue on during our week. For some people, Sunday and when they go to church, that's how they get themselves through that week. They go and get that spiritual high. Other people, that's not going to be enough. Other people may go to church that morning, but later that evening, they're going to the juke joint. Or Saturday night, they're going to the juke joint, wake up on Sunday morning and go to church. Trying to transmute that energy into something powerful. Now, in that movie, that music drew in vampires, people who wanted to feed off of that. And that's something that we have to pay attention to as well. Currently, when you have talent, there's going to be people who want to come in and want to feed off of that. Vampires, energy suckers. That's what's going on with Deion Sanders and his son, Shador Sanders. Now, the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And they're the gatekeepers. They decide who's going to get in and who's going to not be allowed in. And they wanted to teach Deion Sanders and his son a lesson. Now, had Shador Sanders, now this is allegedly, this is just what I believe, because based on his talent in the scouting reports, he should not have been picked in the fifth round with the 144th pick. He should have been going long before then. But you have Deion Sanders, who was a very confident, brash, what some people will call arrogant black man in the league. He knew how talented he was, and he wasn't afraid to tell you. This man played in a World Series in baseball and a Super Bowl. I don't think any other person has ever done that. That's the championship game in two different professional leagues. It's quite a feat. And now you have his son, who was raised by this man, who has confidence in himself, who has parents that love him, who have instilled confidence in him. So yeah, he's not coming in, meek and humble and, I'm just glad to have the opportunity. Thank you, NFL. Thank you, Roger Goodell. Nah, he's coming in like, yo, I got talent. Yeah, y'all gonna recognize me for it. I'm gonna prove it. He says legendary a lot. And that's one thing America can't stand is a self-confident black man who's proud of his blackness. You have to be very within a box to make the white supremacist power structure feel comfortable letting you in. And if you don't make them feel comfortable, then they're going to punish you for it. We saw the same thing with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson did good business in the music industry. So someone had a problem with that. I do not believe he died the way they say that he died. So here we have Shador Sanders and his father, confident, showing that they know who they are, and what they want to accomplish. Same thing happened in the movie Sinners. You had the smokestack twins. When they brought that sawmill from that white man at the beginning of the movie, he was smiling at them because he knew, oh, I'm coming back tomorrow morning with all my clan buddies, and we're going to kill anybody that's here. Now, the brothers didn't know that at the time. But again, when they came back and at the end of that scene or the end of the movie, spoilers if you haven't seen it, said, we're going to teach these niggars a lesson. And that lesson is, don't get too big for your britches. That's something that we've seen throughout America. They like to call us lazy, say we never built anything for ourselves, but we've had multiple thriving communities where it was just us, our own businesses, our own infrastructure, hospitals, schools, banks. And what happened? Well, usually a white mob gets jealous and they come and they destroy it. They know that they have to keep a foot on our necks, or else we'll just rise back to our natural position. And that's one of the things. We've been on the planet for so long. We've had so much excellence in our bloodline, in our genetics, that we can't help but to be excellent if left to our own devices. The excellence that you see coming out of Black America now, that's in spite of everything that's been done to us. Hold on, I want to get a little bit of water. Give me 1 second. All right. Talking to yourself is thirsty work. When I moved down to Florida, when I moved down to Florida, I learned about the benefits of spring water. Spring water has minerals in it that you're not going to get from purified water. And I used to think spring water tasted like water that had been in somebody else's mouth and they spit it out. But now it's great. I enjoy it. Basically, the only water that I do drink. So if you haven't started, get yourself some spring water. Something else that I know is a problem with Shador Sanders is that he is a young black man that comes from a household with a mother and a father. Having, I don't know if they were together his whole life, but he does have a mother and father, and they were together at some point. I don't think in the movie they mentioned the Smokestack twins, their mother. I don't remember them saying anything about that. I do remember them saying that the father was abusive. He abused his sons, and that because of that, Smoke, trying to protect his brother, killed his father. That's 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 a hell of a feat to have to kill your father to protect your younger brother. So has Shador Sanders come from a family where the father was absent, where he was raised by just his mother, the NFL would have ate that story up because it fits into that narrative that most of us come from broken homes, that we don't have our fathers around. I was blessed to have my father in my life. These 37 years have been a blessing having my father and my mother. One of my favorite stories that my father likes to tell me is that when I was born, he was standing behind my mother, and you come out head first, right? So the doctor pulls me out, and my father says I turn around in the doctor's arms or hands and look him in the eye, and he said it freaked him out. And I don't remember that consciously, but I think about that. Like, a child isn't supposed to be able to have that type of strength to be able to, like, to turn their head and, like, look around. And when I told my dad before, if I was delivered by a white doctor, when I came out and saw him, I was like, well, I know you're not my dad. Where he at? Ah, there you are. So I turned around in my father's or in the doctor's hands and looked my father in the eye. On my channel, I've been reading The Way of the Superior Man. You can find the playlist up to chapter 33 on my channel. When you get done listening to this, go and give this book a listen. We're at a time now where the pendulum is swinging. I've been seeing a whole lot more about men trying to improve themselves, just so we can get to be that best version of ourselves, because we see that there has been an attack on masculinity. And by attacking masculinity, you attack society, because weak men can't build a strong society. Pitting men against their woman, that doesn't make for a strong society. Let's think about the love interest in the movie. So you have Smoke and the woman he was in love with, the hoodoo priestess. And it powerful as well that they made this beautiful dark-skinned sister the love interest of one of the twins. And she was deep off in her spiritual bag and gave him the mojo bag that kept him protected for all those years. And then you had the younger brother. And wait, before we get to the younger brother, Smoke was with a woman who wasn't married. That was his woman. The other two love interests in the movie, these women were married. So you had Stack, who was with his childhood friend that she loved him and he loved her, but she went off and was married to a white man. Now she was an octoroon, meaning I think her grandfather was half black. I believe that's how that works. But she was light enough to where back then she could pass for white. And because of, the racial politics at the time, that was sometimes a better thing to do. You want to give your child the best opportunity. So if that child could pass for white, you let them go on and do that in some cases. And that's what she was doing. But even though that's not what she wanted to do exactly, she still took vows and she was a married woman, but she wanted to mess with Stack. And you see how that turned out. She went outside. She was used to having some type of privilege in her life. So she felt she can go out and talk to the vampires and get a feel for them. Well, that wasn't a good idea. And she volunteered for it. So this is the married woman that he was messing with. And she wound up being the death of him. And then you have Preacher Boy. Uh, he's paired with another beautiful sister, a beautiful dark-skinned sister. And she's married as well. I don't know if she was just saying that for, just to tell him he was too young for her, or if she was really married. But she said she was married and she still showed up at the juke joint that night and wound up having sex with Preacher Boy. So that's 2 cases of infidelity. And, not well. I won't say neither of those women survived, but yeah, they didn't survive. Now, spoiler alert, I hope you've seen the movie already, but in the post-credit scene, you see that Stack and the woman he was interested in, they got to live on in a sense. Just being able to come out at night. Imagine what that's like. You're a child of the sun and you can't feel sunlight anymore. You have to bring death to continue yourself living. And I guess in a sense, we all do that, especially if you eat meat. And even if you eat, vegetables, those vegetables are alive. They have a consciousness that maybe we aren't able to tell, but they're still alive and they have feelings. They've proven that with tests. Like there was I forgot what kind of fruit it was, maybe like an orange. But there's 2 oranges and they had something attached to it to monitor signals coming off of the orange. And when they sliced the orange, they saw that it started going crazy. Those patterns started going crazy. And what was more significant, the orange that wasn't getting cut, its waves started going crazy as well. So it could tell, oh, something's happening to my homie. Or they had like something that was shared between them. So don't think you're getting away from, consuming or killing something just because you don't eat animals. You can't survive down here without doing that. To live and to not be to the point where you can survive on air and water, you're going to have to kill something. That's just life down here in the physical. Anyway, I forgot why I brought that up. Let me see. I was talking about oh yeah, so Preacher Boy says, right before the vampires came, that was the best day of his life. Even with everything that happened that night, well, after the vampires showed up, everything before that, he said that was the best day of his life. And Stack said, yeah, it was like that for me too. I felt free. I was, doing what I wanted to do. I had a plan and I knew how to accomplish it. I was putting it into motion. Now think about all those years that Stack got to live on with that woman that turned him into a vampire. None of those days lived up to that one day that he had getting that juke joint ready. Think about that. He gained eternal life in a sense, but he still wasn't happy. Or maybe it's not fair to say he wasn't happy. He just said that was the happiest day of his life. Still, that's something to think about. But I'm not going to stay on here too long. I just want to test this out. I believe this video quality looks pretty good, so I'll be doing this a little more often. Now, the next thing I need to figure out is how to get this microphone working how I want it, even though that, the audio quality seems to be pretty good, and how to get this music coming out of my speaker. So if you have any suggestions on the playback of this, leave it in the comments and I'll check it out. Make sure you click on those playlists that I have listed on my channel. I have The Way of the Superior Man that I'm doing currently. Fellas, if you're into self improvement, if you're trying to bring out that best version of yourself and you need some masculine advice, this book from David Dita is excellent. I'm rereading it now as I prepare myself for marriage. And I've read it before and it was good information, but being in a relationship and reading it now, it's giving me like a whole new insight. So check that out. That's on the playlist. Also, I have Makes Me Want to Holler by Nathan McCall. Powerful testimony by this brother. Um, Same age as my father, essentially. And it really gives you a look into what it's like to be young, black, and in America, and in like a constant state of rage from all the things that you experience. Now, one of the tricks that the power structure learned how to do was to integrate us into their society and boost up enough of us or let enough of us reach a certain level to where it almost appeases us. It's like, yeah, you can come in the big house, you can sleep in one of the bedrooms, but you're not going to have control of the big house. Master is still going to run it. We just let you come in. So yeah, we've been integrated into this big house, but we're still not running it. You can't truly be free as long as somebody else is controlling the value of your money. You check out the Federal Reserve if you want to, and the history of the Federal Reserve if you want to get a better understanding on that. Also on this channel, I have a reading of something called Satan, an autobiography. And that's a must listen to, a must read as well, because we've been misled about who exactly Satan is and what the devil is. We think of it as something that's being outside of ourselves. Like we think there's a horned man living on the ground in hell that makes us do all these evil things. When in actuality, the Satan is just your lower nature self. Whenever you listen to your lower nature self and you do something that's negative, think about those old cartoons when you had an angel and a devil appear on the shoulder and they're both talking to you. The angel's telling you one thing, and like the devil is telling you another. Who you choose to listen to determines the kind of outcome you're going to have. Who you choose to listen to. So you can listen to that devil on your shoulder, but something of note in those cartoons, the angel and the devil always looked like the character that it was appearing on its shoulder. So that's showing you that that's you. But it's only meant to be there to challenge you to get better. Or else how would you know? Could you truly know what good and righteousness is without experiencing what evil is, without seeing it? And that's why we have this physical reality for us to experience these different things so we'll know better. If you know better, you do better. And we have all these people around us living all types of different lives that feed their experiences into the Akashic record. And we have access to those. So when we move beyond the physical, we move to whatever comes next and we're building our own worlds. We have the experiences from the Akashic record to pull from. So we know, you know what? No, I don't want to have that in this next world. Or you know what? I do want to have this in this next world. So Satan and Autobiography, that's on a playlist on my channel. Check that out. The Way of the Superior Man, that's on my channel as well. And also, what's the next one? Makes Me Want to Holler by Nathan McCall. But thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I'll see y'all in the next live edition of Ron's Library and Ideas. Peace. Is it over?